Good morning and welcome to ApiOpenStudio. Today we're going to walk through setting up ApiOpenStudio using Docker in a production environment on two separate servers. So first off, we're going to take a look at the wiki where we've got full detailed notes on installing a Docker in a production format on a server. So here we'll go to install Docker production and we'll go to the main API first. So first of all, we're going to install the Docker packages. This is listed here. Let me just make this a little bit smaller. So this is a fresh, I've created a fresh server for here and set up my SSH config to go in directly. Right, so I'm not going to log in as root, although I do have root access on this one just because it's easier. This is bare bones at the moment, bare bones Ubuntu. So first of all we're going to do an update. And we'll do an upgrade. Yep. Now we'll install the CA certificates, curl, GNU-PG, and LSB release. These instructions are all available on the Docker website. Now there's some changes going on with Ubuntu at the moment where it's going to complain about the key rings, but we can ignore that for now. They actually work in parallel with the new version, and to be honest, I'm not entirely sure how the new version is working, so I'm a little bit nervous of recommending any specific way of doing it at the moment. Right, so that's all looking good. Now if we don't need to upgrade, we've done the install. Actually, I lie. Now we're going to do an update and we're going to install the Docker binaries. And now we'll spin up Docker. Okay, that's good. I'm not going to bother doing that test. You can do that if you want. I'm just going to leave that as is. Next, we will install the SSL certificates. So let's install Snap. And we'll install certbot. And then for convenience, we'll create a soft link to the user bin directory. So now I'm about to generate the certificate, which is this part here. I'm going to do this separately because this will involve my email, that sort of stuff. So I don't want to publish that. Okay, that's done. Now we will install the initial containers. Docker is now fully installed, so this means we now have a system all primed and ready to go. So first of all, we're going to create a Docker volume that will contain the database data. So sudo docker create create db data. Yep. Okay, that's done. So this will now be fully encrypted, and now we'll create the network that the database and the API will communicate over. done. Now if we do a sudo docker volume ls, we should see the volume in there. Lovely jubbly. Now we'll have another double check on the network, make sure it's all created well. We've got the bog standard bridge host none, and the API network there as we're using the standard driver bridge driver. So now we'll create the database container. Now I'm going to take this up until here because what I'm going to do is change the MySQL user and passwords so that we're as secure as possible. User equals API user. I'm not too bothered about it at the moment. And now we'll add the MySQL password. Obviously you're going to pick something much more harder to guess than API user or API password. That's a shocker. But this is purely for demonstration how we do this correctly, or rather the processes that you will use to do it correctly. Now we'll add the root password, and again, I don't really mind too much about this. This bit we can do a straight copy because we've got the host, DB data, that doesn't really matter. The volume's linking up to the one that we just created. The network is using the network that we just created, and it's going to be the latest MariaDB volume. Now, if we have a quick look in the containers, we should now see the MariaDB, correct? And there's the correct name. And next we'll download and configure the settings file. So I'm going to create this with sudo using the full path. This can be wherever you like, but I'm setting it to data/ApiOpenStudio, so that will create the directory. Now we're going to fetch from the GitHub repository the example Docker settings. So I've already set up as a shortcut for you guys an example Docker settings, and this will then output it into data ApiOpenStudio, and the file will be called settings.yaml. There we go. So now we'll do the configuration. We'll go into data ApiOpenStudio and we'll edit settings. Okay. Now I've listed some of the stuff we need to change here. We're not going to change anything in the logging format in the debug section. We're actually quite happy with that because this is set up automatically to output to the std out, so the Docker output will display all logging from the database and the API, along with it will then be stored in API log file and DB log file, which are in the Docker container in varlog nginx api.log and var.log nginx db.log. Now within the database we need to change, you know what, I've forgotten what we set everything up to. Here we are, it's got API user, API password and root password, and the database is MySQL. Okay, let's go in there. So host is correct, root password is root_password, username was API password, no, API user, and the password is API password. Now we need to set up the URLs. Base path is already done for you. URL is demo-api.ApiOpenStudio.com. I'm going to copy that because I know I'm going to need it for the JOT settings. So for the security in JOT, we also have the issuer, which has to come from your website, as well as it only be permitted for your site. And that's now done. And you know what? I forgot to use sudo. Okay, let's do that again. Now to use the database all over again. API password. API user and root password. Next, we're going to spin up the API container. So let's copy this. I need to change a few things here. So this part here actually is fine. It's actually that part there, this part that we need to change, which is for the CRT and the key for the SSL. So before I do that, let's list the certificates. Now we'll paste that in, and I can just do a straight copy and paste from there. And now we'll take from there down to here. And the next one, obviously, is the key. And now we'll go down to the tag. Obviously, there's no tag called tag. The most recent at this point is 1.0.0-beta 3. Okay, so just a word of warning that what we actually have here at the moment is, with these keys, it's a read-only. So if you need to change any of the settings that you got incorrect, you need to change them within the container. Just changing in the external, because there's no right there, it won't automatically transfer unless you restart the container. Right, so that's now done. Let's jump in and we'll do the install. Whoops. Oh, I forgot Docker. And now we'll do the install. So you run install.sh. First of all, it'll do the composer dependencies. There's not very many, so it'll be quite quick. And then it'll jump into the custom install. So first of all, it's going to generate a new database, which will obviously erase any existing one, because you can rerun this if you want. So we're going to say yes. Really, do we want to add test users? For now, no. And we'll call it admin. And for real security, we're going to call it the password admin password. Please don't use a password like this in real life. We don't care about this. API at foo.bar.com. And it will now automatically generate the jot keys for us. Yes, we'll do that. Now this RM part, don't worry about that. That's for if you rerun it. So it's just that the jot package that we use can't overwrite existing keys. So we need to initially remove them first. But you can actually see, since we're in the container, -auth /etc nginx cert, you will see that, oh, actually if I do -auth, we'll see that they don't have a size of 0. There's the keys. And there's, yeah, there we go, sorry, 3.2 Ks and 100 Ks. So we've got the keys and we've got the CR2, the certificate and the key that were mounted in the previous command. Okay, let's exit from there. And now we'll test the API. I don't think there's anything more we need to do, just do a double check. No. Okay, so let's spin up here. And I'm just going to clone my local just for speed. And we're going to rename this as demo. Now, obviously, the base URL is wrong, so we'll change that to demo-api.openstudio.com. Core account and core app remains exactly the same. Core remains empty, and I think I called this admin password. Now, in theory, if I run this, it should fetch a token that will show it's up and running. And there we go. We have it. Okay, so now that we've got the API up and going, we're going to install the admin container. We're going to do this on a separate server. This is because I'm going to keep this really, really simple. If we install both the API and admin container on the same server, we're going to need a reverse proxy. Otherwise, the server won't know which container to send the HTTP, the port 80 or port 443 requests to. So it also means that they're completely separate servers, so it actually makes the separateness of concerns a lot better. So it's a very similar path on the wiki. We'll go to install, Docker, production, and this time admin Docker production environment. Now, because I've already done this once before, it's exactly the same as before. I've installed the Docker packages, already done the SSL certificates. So next we're going to set up the container. So let's go in. And we're going to make the directory data/ApiOpenStudio/admin. This can be wherever you want. You just need to update the settings here, whichever path you set it to. And now we'll download the example settings. and we'll update in here. Now, unlike before, I'm going to use sudo vim / Okay, so we need to update the admin URL. Admin ApiOpenStudio.com, and this the API URL. Now there's a minor gotcha here, unfortunately. I'm not going to bother updating this for now because we're on MVP and it's going to be we're going to change the entire admin interface, but you need to ensure you have the HTTP or HTTPS prefix on it. We also need it was initially set up for the dev Docker, so we need to remove that, and that should be correct now. Now we need to set up the admin container. We don't need a database for this because this is completely separate, it's completely standalone, and it links up to the existing API that we've set up in the last step. So I'm going to set, the only thing we need to set here is the settings, and in fact they're already done. The only thing I need to do then after this is correctly set the path to the certificates. So as before, sudo certificates. Obviously, if you've bought your certificates from a provider, you're not going to need to use certbot, but in my case, I'm doing it on the cheap, and I really don't see a reason why you wouldn't use certbot. It gives you a fully qualified certificate for free. There's no domain challenges or certificate challenges whatsoever. Right, and once again we'll insert our own tag, the latest tag, which I believe, I actually can't remember off the top of my head. It's beta, I believe. Alpha, 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 beta. Yeah, I mean, we could use master and develop. They're actually at the same stage as the beta, but no dramas, we use the proper tag. Oh, I've made a mistake. Minch. Okay, let's do that again. Okay, we're good. Now, as mentioned before, this admin container it should now be connected to the original API that we set up, which is just a bare bones with only administrators. So let's see if it works. Demo dash admin ApiOpenStudio.com. we've got nothing there. Do we have an issue there? It should be up and going. It's downloaded and it's running. Let's just make sure it's up and going. Got port 443 to 443, 80 to 80. Okay, let's go in. What I want, just make sure we've got everything in there. You know what I didn't do? I didn't do the install. Yeah, so we need the composer dependencies in there, as well as the npm dependencies, and then the compiling of the JavaScript and CSS. Let's see if that's now working. Yes, it is. Okay, so we're connected. Now, let's, using the username and the password for admin that we did before, we should be able to log in. And there we are. So, as a final test, what I want to do is create an account application and a developer, and then just install a dummy resource in there. So let's create a new account, and we'll call this demo account. Oh, okay, my bad. All done. Now we'll create an application and link it to the account. And now we'll create. Now this is some of the workflow here is some of the stuff we're going to change, but with a new UX. But for now, let's just show you how it works. So we're going to create a new user. It's going to be active. We'll call it dev, and we'll give them a really simple password. And the email can be dev@fubar.com. Now we'll add a developer role to this user. So we'll select dev, developer, in demo account, demo app, and we'll create that. Now if I log out, I can then log in as dev. And if I look at my accounts, I should only see the account that I'm assigned to. The same with applications. Now I can now create a resource. What I will do is actually copy here we go. I'm actually going to copy a resource that already exists. Not there, resources. This will do. Okay, so let's create a new resource. This one's going to be test. It's going to belong to demo account, demo app. We'll do a get, test. We'll give it no time to TTL. Now have to split some of this. That we don't need because that's already defined. Oops. And we'll pinch the process and put that into there. Now actually, you know what? I'm going to have to remove those. So what I'm going to do is just put this directly into here. I'm going to open up here. There we go. And I'll put that in here. And no, I don't want you to save. This will save a bit of time. There we go. So this should now upload. Boom, there we go. And if we go into the Open API, we should now see, if I go into Demo App, automatic generated documentation for the get test. There we go. So there you can see how simple it is to install now on production using Docker. You don't need to muck around with servers or anything like that. In fact, quite a bit of that was actually of this thing was just me testing. But you can see how quick and easy it is, apart from the main DevOps of setting up the actual server, which is actually very, very simple. All you need to do is essentially just a bare bones server. You could spin up a bare bones API server and create a subdomain within minutes. So, very simple. Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you next time.